Have you noticed a difference in like people's motivation and like just talk about like the impact that it's had on?
I hired this guy, Otto, and he was the general manager. He came in with a couple of employees that we picked from my job in the Marine Corps. These are guys that were handpicked, wanted to earn some extra cash, and things were off and running real quick.
If you think about Uber, for example, they rely on the drivers to do all the transportation. They obviously rely on their infrastructure, the vehicles, but the thing that drivers can't do is run a transportation company at scale.
I would give him 50 or 80 bucks depending on the distance of it, and then off we went. They were doing the deliveries for me, and things were going great until the guys who were assisting me, my employees, realized that I wasn't doing anything that they couldn't do on their own. At the end of the day, we have a rolling summary per day, the amount of hours worked, and then it's kind of like a situation report of how many pickups they have, how many deliveries they had, how many sales.
Right now, in the couch flipping world, a lot of people are struggling with sales. It's funny how the conversation has shifted a little bit from there are too many competitors, I can't find inventory on Marketplace, to there's an abundance of inventory on Marketplace, but I can't sell the stuff that I have. And it seems like sales is the bigger issue. And that's why I wanted to bring you on today for this episode of the Couch Pod to break down your sales strategy for how you're able to consistently move 2.5 items a day out of your brick and mortar here and share that with the rest of the community.
All right, Charles. Yeah, it's always great to see you. Thanks for having me back for the podcast. Great to see you. Hope everything's going well. And look forward to it.
Yeah, so I first heard about this commission sales strategy at the Couch Conference back in December. And, since then I've talked to a few couch flippers. In fact, Tyler Hoyle, who's just on the podcast, a couple others who have scaled up to 3,000, 4,000 square foot warehouse spaces that have employed a similar model within their business. Because, as a couch flipper, the most important activity you can be doing is figuring out where to get good inventory on a reliable basis and how to sell that inventory. That's the cash flow moving into the business. Everything else is just the labor that you can outsource. The pickups, the deliveries, the cleaning of the couches. It's just physical manual labor. It's not the strategy, the crux of the business, if you will. There are only so many hours in the day, how many messages you can send out, so many listings you can put up on Marketplace, et cetera. And so being able to arsenalize the people around you and deploy them towards a common mission while making sure that the incentives are aligned and that they also don't have a corresponding incentive to break off, in military terms, maybe be treasonous.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want them selling couches out of their own garage. Exactly.
You got to keep them motivated. You got to keep them happy. And it seems like you've designed a system at Griff's Furniture Emporium to do exactly that. And I would love if you could speak on that. I would love if you could speak on that and kind of share the thinking and be maybe even tactical on how to do this and implement this within a couch flipping business.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, Charles, when I first got this thing going, when I first started doing this as a little bit of a side hustle, was in Hawaii. It was 2013, 2014 is when I started, I turned my garage into my warehouse. That's where the business was. And it was just me, bunch of love seats, a couch if I got crazy, maybe a set if I, spent a little bit extra money. And it slowly, transaction after transaction, scaled up. I realized sectionals were selling more. So I started doing that. And then, I realized I was spending a lot of time in Hawaii sitting in traffic. All right. A lot of these deliveries took a heck of a lot more time. I was realizing sales were going really well. It stopped being a one couch a week sort of operation to, maybe a few a day. I couldn't keep up with. I was realizing that it wasn't something that I could do on my own. So my garage, I outgrew it real quick. It was just filled to the brim with couches. So what I did is I knocked on my neighbor's door. I said, "Hey, bro, I see you don't really use your garage that much. You just park your car in there from time to time. What if I paid you 150 bucks? Would you let me use your garage?" And it was just a crazy cold call. I was really good friends with him. We used to drink, we drank beer all the time. He loved the idea because he wanted to make some extra money to pay for a little bit of bills. So that's how the initial scaling started. And I went from his garage. Once it happened where I outgrew his garage as well, I just kept going around the neighborhood, just knocking on doors, seeing if they wanted to rent me out their garage on base. It was a wild thing because my Chevy Silverado, up on the little visor, I had 6 garage door openers. It was out of control. I used to meet with people at the front gate, to escort them on. And then, they're looking for a black leather couch set. I'm thinking all right, is this at Bob's house or Rich's, Chris's? I'm trying to think in my head through the Rolodex of garages I'm renting out where to go. So that was where I first started scaling out warehouse space or inventory space. Then I realized that sales were starting to go up. There's only one of me. There's only one Griff. There's only one person who could do the pickups and deliveries. I started asking the guys who I was renting the garages from, if they'd be interested in doing some deliveries or pickups for me, So then that kind of took off. I started paying them basically like $50 or something like that. If I'd sell a sectional for $400, maybe add a little bit on for delivery, I would give him $50 or $80 depending on the distance of it. And then, off we went. They were doing the deliveries for me, and things were going great until the guys who were assisting me, my employees, realized that I wasn't doing anything that they couldn't do on their own. I was leveraging not only their work, their effort, but I was leveraging their resources, using their garage, using their truck, using their time. Once they realized I could just do this myself, they were seeing that there was not much value left in Michael Griffin over here, on a Hawaiian. Like, it was great. Thanks for the idea, bud. I'm going to take it from you and I'm going to become your competitor. And that's what started to happen, and I was just racking my brain. I was like, how do I get myself into this situation now? Because the people who were helping me grow the business were becoming my competitors. And that's when, it dawned on me that you can't, it's good to outsource and have employees and have a team, but you can't depend on them forever. You have to really build the infrastructure of your business. You have to have the resources, the trucks, the trailers, the warehouse space, and then just kind of depend on them for time and effort. Because otherwise, you're just going to find yourself potentially in a position where your employees will become your competitors.
Hey, couch flippers. Before we get into the podcast today, I have a question for you. Do you want the most unfair advantage in your couch flipping market? That's where Ivy Flip enters the game. We give our users the fastest search times, so you're the one who gets first dibs on all the good deals, while everyone else can have your scraps. Not to mention, our cross-listing tool also gives users a 10 to 20% increase in sales. With Ivy Flip, you're not just ahead, you're leading with the premium technology for couch flipping. Constant updates ensure you're always equipped with the speed and efficiency to win. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Don't just work hard, and be smart. Download Ivy Flip now and see the difference for yourself. Just search Ivy Flip on the iOS or Google Play Store, or click the link in the description and get a free trial now.
Not necessarily just the infrastructure, but you have to be doing something that they don't want to do. That's the value add. Because if you think about Uber, for example, they rely on the drivers to do all the transportation. They obviously rely on their infrastructure, the vehicles, but the thing that drivers can't do is run a transportation company at scale and get access to the customers at scale. They're not funded enough. They don't have the network effects. Obviously, a business like that has a big moat. And I think the question is, in a furniture flipping business, what is your moat? And it might be the infrastructure in the case of furniture flipping. But just to think of it more generally in terms of having a moat, what is the thing that you are doing that other people don't want to do or cannot do?
For me, it's a formula. The idea of a moat is keeping me in business and keeping my employees, like, they would rather work for me than, try to go and do something out on their own. The reason for that is they would make more money with it. They're not spending money on gas or truck payment. They don't have to develop a brand. Right now, one of the biggest problems is that there's so many scammers in the area. People wanting $50 for a deposit for this unbelievable deal that's not real. So anybody who's just a civilian, I call them out in town, they're trying to sell their couch, they're overcoming the burden of explaining to the customer that they are not a scammer. They're not running off with their money. Everybody is very concerned about that. So what I have is the branding. I have Griff's Furniture Emporium that's kind of, well known in the in our community. People, they talk about us, great word of mouth. They don't have to do the basic, it's like 10 years worth of grinding it out, developing what our business is, educating the customers who we are, right? So the marketing aspect, our employees don't have to waste their time on Facebook nonstop interacting with customers, putting up ads, all these things. They just have to worry about what's in their best interest financially, which is finding great deals and delivering quality products. Those are the two things, and it makes it easy for them. And now they can do all those things, be compensated very fairly, very well, that they're walking out of here with a lot of money in their back pocket, and then they could just leave it. They could leave it at home. I don't have that luxury. Unfortunately, my phone continues to ring off the hook, with phone calls or texts or inquiries, all of this stuff on Facebook, asking, about dimensions and what's the best price you could do, all of these things. They don't have to worry about that. So I think it's important that they know that, but you want to create, the way I look at it is that your business is it's like your castle. You want to develop your castle, have it set up, have it built, have it fortified with, like you said, a moat that kind of takes your competitors away from being able to attack the castle, and then also have other things that protect it, and you talk about like archers defending it. The way that I do that, again, is through a formula. It's through branding, marketing, through having word of mouth, offering financial financing options where people could pay with card, having, a SEMA where they can make monthly payments. And then also my employees don't have to use their own truck. They don't have to pay for gas or anything like that. If they make a mistake, the business is going to cover them. If they happen to scratch something, they're not out the $200 or $300. That's a liability that I'll take on. I'm not expecting, if I have a 19, 20, 22-year-old employee who's bringing a couch and for whatever reason it gets ripped. Things happen, accidents happen. I've done it hundreds of times at this point. They're not liable for it. I understand that accidents happen. Now we're going to have a conversation about it, and we're going to have a period of training, but they're not out that $200, $300, $400. And, we use it as a learning lesson to train.
Absolutely. You give them like a structure and a formula that they can operate within, and they just have to apply their labor, and they're able to make money and be reasonably compensated and have a good work environment. That's important for a lot of people. And it seems like part of the moat is just scaling the business. So if you're just starting out, partnered with a guy to make all your deliveries, and it's just you and him, and like you're a lot more reliant on him than you are. Like I would be much more reliant on that person making all my deliveries than you are at this point in time with your business. And so if you're a flipper, it probably behooves you to scale up quickly such that the distance between what you have and what another person could achieve. So today, how many people do you have working for you?
Today, other than myself, I got 2 other guys, and they'll be coming in at like 4:30.
Oh, amazing. And how do you incentivize them? What is the commission structure here? What is this structure that you've created for them?
So when I say they come in at 4:30, like the way that I've kind of created this business is they can leisurely be working at this job when they're away. And what do I mean by that? Like, for instance, since we started this podcast, my guy Justin, who's coming in later on, he's already sent me 3 couches. One of them that we were absolutely going to take action and pick up, but he's sending me leads nonstop. And the reason that he does this when he's not on the clock is because he gets an acquisition commission. All right. So if he finds a deal and he gets all the logistics set up, he gets like phone number, the address, he basically sets up the time that they're going to go and pick it up, does all the details, gets that coordinated, he gets the acquisition. We do a percentage of it, and what that will just kind of depend on is what the potential profitability is. I have a standard acquisition commission, which is, $40 or $50, but if it's a monster deal, like something we're getting for $500 and we could sell for $2,000, like one of those, the holy grail deals, it's going to change. It's going to be a little bit more. I'm fair when it comes to that. But for the most part, each acquisition commission is going to be $40. And now Justin, he finds that, just say for instance, walking the dog with how we compensate, he finds the deal. He gets $40 for the commission on finding it. Then he's also going to get 15 an hour. We do 15 an hour. That's just the standard rate while he's on the clock. And then we do a $25 commission for the pickup, and then a $25 commission for the delivery. So all of those things added together, we have ourselves a pretty solid Friday. He's $300.
These are interesting numbers. So standard sourcing commission, acquisition commission, $40 hourly rate. That's when he's on premises at the warehouse. $25 each way for a delivery. Pick up deliver. I mean, you came up with these numbers for a reason. Could you kind of back into it? Because, for different flippers, slightly different models, they're going to need to maybe figure out these numbers for themselves.
Yeah, you're going to have to adjust how it makes sense in your area. I think California is going to be much different than North Carolina, and I get that. But you have to do what's right where it makes sense, and it's still going to be financially in your best interest. And it's going to take a lot of training, because if you don't basically set quality standards, you guys are just going to flood your inbox with a ton of trash. And what it does is it helps me out, because my guys know exactly what I'm going to approve and what I'm not going to approve. Some of them are better than others. Justin is the man. He's very good at understanding which ones we're after and what's good on the brand and what's not. But for me, I try to come up with a number where it's still going to be financially in my interest to attack these deals, make it affordable, the customer's end, and ensure that my employees aren't going to go into business for themselves. And I've been doing these numbers for about 3 years, and it's been going very well. I think they seem to be fair. Nobody's come up with any problems for it. As a matter of fact, most people are incredibly grateful for it, and it's seemed to really work out. So a lot of people will say, like, the best thing that you could do is give profit sharing and give a percentage of the business to your employees, your key employees, your managers, and stuff like that. So this is a way. I work in a very transient area. All of my guys are active duty Marines, so they're going to be here for a short period of time. I can't really cut out 10% of the business and put it in this person's name when eventually they're going to go to Yuma, Arizona or California or something like that. But what I do is I'll give a percentage per transaction. Like each sectional here sort of represents one business. They have skin in the game with which ones they acquire. All right. And there are other barriers. For instance, if they acquire something that's really dirty, that acquisition commission isn't going to transfer until it's ready to be sold. All right. So if they get something that's covered in dog hair, if they get something that's got some stains, it needs some cleaning or vacuuming, whatever that is, they need to go in, take care of that, or outsource it, work with somebody else who's in the shop, maybe who didn't get that deal, and say, like, I'll give you some of my commission, if you vacuum, and I think we have a good vibe and a good crew. We all work together really well with making that kind of stuff happen.
So for the acquisition commission, it's not earned until the couch is ready for sale, like it's in the warehouse ready for sale.
Yes. There are times where, like, say, Justin or Caleb or one of my guys will go out there, they'll bring it in, it's such a spectacular deal. I'm still getting my hands dirty. I'll clean it, or my warehouse manager will clean it. It all, it's case by case. But if they bring in something that, like, I'm embarrassed to show, like, customers can't see this, it doesn't belong in this warehouse, it belongs over in one of the auxiliary units, then we would suspend it. I'd still do the pickup delivery, obviously still the hourly rate. I'd still do the pickup commission, but the finder's fee or the acquisition commission, that one would be kind of suspended until it's ready for sale.
I see. And then you said they have equity in each couch too. So there's an additional payment being made when the couch is sold too. Could you break that down?
Yeah, so it's another sale commission. If Justin does, from cradle to grave, if he did every single transaction or every little key activity with a sectional, he found it on Facebook Marketplace, put all the logistics together, he went and bought it, he picked it up, got it into the warehouse, clean, it's ready, he sold it to somebody, and then he turned around and delivered it. He got all 5 of those things. He's getting 40 for the acquisition, typically. He's getting 25 for the sale commission. He's getting 25 for the delivery, 25 for the pickup, and then the hourly rate as well, if that makes sense. I can add all these things up. I don't have that off the top of my head, but if he does this thing cradle to grave, or cradle to delivery, we'll say, that's kind of a morbid way of looking at it. If he picks it up, he gets the acquisition, he gets the pickup acquisition, the delivery commission, he gets the sale, he's in charge of all that. He walks away with about like $130 just on that one deal. And a lot of the times these things, especially during tax season, where we take it off the truck, if it's one of those spectacular deals, like a gray L-shaped sectional, it's highly sought after. Like, there are times where things come in and they go out almost instantaneously.
How did you back into this math? I imagine, like, if I had to guess, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you looked at your total revenue coming in, the number of couches that you're selling per month, your average gross profit margin on each of those couches, and then you're like, okay, I can afford, based on these numbers, to spend $130 per couch, and then you sort of backed into the commission structure that way. Is that about right?
Yeah, Charles, it comes to a point where I've been doing this for so long that I could see something on Facebook Marketplace. It's like a sixth sense. It's just, you do something so many times. I look at something, I know in my area now how much I can reliably sell it for. I could see like a misvalued asset where they just need this thing out of their house and they have it for sale for $300. I know without a doubt we're getting $700 for that. That's how much potential is there. As long as there's anything that's not unseen, sometimes there's broken frames that's not disclosed by the seller. But for the most part, I have an understanding of what the intrinsic value is. In my head, I'll see a deal on Facebook and I'll know exactly what the intrinsic value is and then what the customer perceived value is. For instance, they got it for $300. I know we're selling that bad boy for $800. So, it makes no difference. If I'm giving this guy for essentially like 2 hours worth of work and he's getting a grand total of $150, it's still way in our best interest. We're going to have a great couch. Customers are going to love it. The employees are making a heck of a lot of money with very minimal effort. And, it's just a win-win-win.
Do you use any software or tool? Like, how do you keep track of sales and commissions and make sure people get paid out accurately?
So, we do, at the end of the day, we have a rolling summary per day, the amount of hours worked. And then it's kind of like a situation report of how many pickups they have, how many deliveries they had, how many sales. And we just kind of just shoot it through. That's simple, just on a text message. And then I consolidate it and have it sent out. But we all work together on a big group chat. We use WhatsApp. And then on WhatsApp, we basically have, it's like a digital version of everything that's going on in the warehouse. We made a sale. We're putting a picture of it along with the agreement, when the delivery is going, stuff like that. So we have a snapshot of it. All of the new pickups, the people in the warehouse are taking pictures, getting the measurements for it and sending it through on there. So we have transparent communication. WhatsApp is the best with that. We're posting everything on there. We're posting our sales, and we're posting like when we get positive reviews, we're putting that on there. We're just memes. You know what I'm saying? It's just a good little where we all talk together, because we're not always working together. Everybody's working different shifts, but we have basically like a transition. If you leave something undone, say for instance the delivery gets delayed to the next day, hey Justin, the delivery's for you, or hey John, they couldn't do today, would you be able to deliver this tomorrow? And we just keep a conversation going that way.
Interesting. So you like every meaningful event in the business that someone has contributed to, whether it's pickup or cleaning, like there's some written log of that happening, and at the end of each day you go like review the log, in essence you total it up, and now you have a daily summary.
That's right.
And then how often are payouts happening? Or is this weekly, monthly?
Weekly.
And are they formally employed with the business, or are they
contractors? Yeah, 1099.
That's probably the way to, especially if they can kind of come and go and work as they see fit. You're not sitting, and then you don't have to deal with like the payroll, taxes, etc. So it seems a lot better for everyone. Okay, very cool. So when did you implement this commission structure, and have you noticed a difference in like people's motivation, and like just talk about like the impact that it's had on your...
So when I first moved away, I used to just run the whole thing, just like most people. I used to just run everything myself. It was my baby. I took care of it. I wiped its butt. I cleaned its mouth. I fed it. I did everything. I nurtured it. But then eventually I had to leave North Carolina and go to New Jersey to recruit in the Marine Corps. So I was physically taken from this area. My hand was forced. It was either lock the door permanently, shut the business down, or grow. So I decided to grow. That was the best choice. So it was basically like sending my kid, my business, my child, right? It grew up and now it's going to college. I had to put it in the hands of somebody else permanently. So it left. I hired this guy, Otto, and he was the general manager. He came in with a couple of employees that we picked for my job in the Marine Corps. These are guys that were handpicked, wanted to earn some extra cash, and things were off and running real quick. Our scale was a lot smaller. We weren't in this warehouse. We're in a couple of smaller storage units, but things were going really well. We realized, harnessing the power of, instead of renting other people's garages, using a centralized area where all of the couches were together. We had a very convenient spot where customers can come and check everything out. While I was in New Jersey, recruiting, if any of your viewers are in the military and they've done military recruiting, it is killer. I mean, it's a soul killing job. It's so difficult. In my opinion, it's the toughest sales job you can find, because first off, you're not getting a commission on recruiting duty. You're just getting an attaboy, and you're getting paid just the same as you are doing any other job, right? But you are on a quota, and this quota is crazy. It's very difficult. You have to find at least 2 qualified young men or women who are medically qualified, physically qualified, mentally capable, and all of these things, and then make it through with a doctor. Also understand and finding people where the Marine Corps or the military is a right fit for them. It's very tough. It's very stressful. I say all that to say it required 100% of my attention. I really couldn't do too much with the furniture business. I had to rely on Otto and the team that he was starting to build over here. So what I did is I had this in place. I had the acquisitions, the deliveries, the pickups, the sales commissions, all that stuff. I had it ironed out with him. And, from there, he just found a bunch of people, and the great thing about this job is we have a culture that's set up. It requires a little bit of grittiness. We don't want a refined person who's going to come in here and think differently about getting deep into a gray L-shaped sectional and not wanting to clean cat hair out, stuff like that. We want some grit here. So certain people know what the culture is, and they will see like, oh, my buddy Jim would be perfect for this. He's strong, he's reliable, he wants to earn some money. This wouldn't bother him, and then you have other military spouses that are a little, like I said, a little bit more refined, and as nice as that is, we need somebody with a little bit of grit. It's the nature of this job. So the people that I work with, they understand the culture and what we're kind of doing here. Through their network, they'll find some people that like, oh, let me talk to Chris. Chris would be perfect for this job. He's very friendly, he's outspoken, he's relatively strong, can drive a truck, and he'd be a perfect fit. So my employees are basically telling their friends word of mouth, not only for how great our furniture is, but word of mouth about how great this of a place this is to earn some money on the side. So we'll pull in guys that way. And that's what they were doing while I was in New Jersey. I mean, there were tons of people who were working here who I had never met. That's such a crazy thing when, I think just less than, I guess like 8 years ago when I was just doing this out of all of those garages, to something now where it's grown, it's grown into something that is helping people pay for a down payment on a house, or letting people pay for all the toys that they want or a boat or whatever, go on a vacation. It really humbling, but it makes me feel very proud. And while I was gone, we would do all of those things, the group texts, and then Otto would basically send kind of like roll up data of the situation report, everything that we did, we sold, that we brought in, the employee compensation. And then at the end of the week, I would just send it to him.
That's amazing. I mean, honestly, that's aspirational. And I think even what we do at Ivy Flip has a similar mission. We got into this business because we want to create opportunities for people, maybe in less of a structured way. Like, we don't want to tell you exactly what to do and how to do it. And so rather than you working for us, we want to be your partner. But we want to present people with those opportunities. And if they're stuck along the way, like, here's some help, here's some knowledge, here's some resources that you can use to elevate and get to that next level.
Going deep into that, at least it's basically following the analogy, sending my kid off to college, right? My business was in the hands of somebody else. It wasn't without its struggles. Like, it wasn't just, rosy and everything was perfect. We went through, a lot of problems. It continued to grow. Like, financially, you look at numbers, you look at our sales, you think everything is great, but there was theft, you know what I'm saying? Like, inventory just gone missing. Just when nobody else will take care of your baby better than you will. What I mean by that is, like, things were just stacked up. Like, our couches were upright on the ground. Like, there was no pride of ownership. This was just a place where they all worked, and, it was a good camaraderie. Turned out into a little bit, I realized people were having undue familiar relationships in the warehouse. And, like, I didn't even know some of these guys. I'm like, oh, whoa, what is going on here? At the end of the day, if we're providing a service for the community and generating money, that people are happy, we're not getting negative reviews, that's all I really want. But the guy who was running the business for me, if you do get to a position where you're scaling out and you have a general manager, you have to look a little bit deeper once in a while. And, what I was finding out is that my commissions that were meant for the employees, that Otto was just pocketing them. He was only given delivery commissions. He was keeping the acquisition and the pickup commissions. And he knew that's where they were meant to be going. But he never said anything. He just kept them. The employees never complained. They were still relatively happy with getting the hourly rate and the delivery commissions, which is good. Like, they're still happy even with that smaller amount of compensation. But when I came here and I found that, obviously, part of me wanted to just get revenge and, take legal recourse. But I spoke to all the guys who were there. They're generally happy. He screwed me over. Clearly, we're not friends anymore and we don't do business together. But if you do, you always have to check in on your kid. If your kid's at college, you got to get in touch with them. Make sure they're not doing drugs. Make sure they're not, falling in with the wrong crowd, or that they're being treated right. Because if you pull back and you let your business run and you just kind of focus on something else, bad things are bound to happen. You have to check in every once in a while. Make sure business is running to your standards. If you don't do those quality checks, bad things are bound to happen. And, we had a little bit of employee exploitation, unfortunately.
They say when the cat's away,
that's it. And that's what happened, unfortunately. But still, everybody was happy. And then once I came back here and fixed those problems, they were way more happy because they're getting paid more. And, it ended up real well.
Like, with your model, you have the ability to totally step away from your business if you want to, but you really have to make sure that the general manager you put in place is the right person, good character, and probably higher quality standards than you might even have yourself. That's that's the best fit for.
Yeah, I agree. You have to. And that's like with any business, though, too. That's not specific just for furniture. That's anywhere you go. That's, a fundamental thing.
One thing that you mentioned that's really interesting to me is culture fit. And at big corporations, corporate speak, you go to these conferences, they're always all about culture. Such a big buzzword in building a business nowadays. But the thing is, you go into these consulting firms or these Fortune 500 companies, and you look around and the culture is shit. Like, it's actually not a very good culture at all, right? It's just sort of something that people hear and they know is important and they want to take part in so they can give themselves that pat on the back. But when you look around, the culture is not actually very good. Whereas for you running a small business, the culture seems very strong. Like, people know what it is. They can identify with it. They have a sense of pride and ownership. And they're able to, without you even forcing them to, go find other people that fit that culture. How did you do that?
So I feel the bigger the organization gets, the harder it is to control. There are so many different variables and factors. I think if you have a small business where you have like 10 to 15 people, things as little as just your attitude, the way the look on your face, the expression that you have, the feelings that you have can instantly change the dynamics of a room in a small business. But as you scale and get bigger and you have more pieces to the puzzle, it gets harder to really manage that. And it becomes more like standard operating procedures and stuff like that. And once you start getting into that jargon, it loses kind of its soul. And I like that our culture takes on the feelings of the members, right? I like that we find people that create the culture rather than have Griff's Furniture Emporium change people. Like, I don't want us to come in and say, like, our culture is this way. You will, I want you to be friendly, professional, still have friendly conversations. I want you to be casually help these people find some couches that would be comfortable for their family, but like treat them as if you're talking to, your best friend. You have to, like, when somebody walks through that door and they're willing to take some money out of their pocket to give to us, like, that's not something I take lightly. I really appreciate that and I love that. And I want them to feel better about it after having done the transaction with us. And the way that we do that is you just treat them like friends or family. And I think that's the best thing that you can do. A lot of the guys who come through those doors are active duty Marines, and I think we have instant rapport when it comes to that. So that's a unique advantage that we have here. But still, a lot of blue collar workers. We have people who love pets, so it's a culture all in of their own. And I think the most important thing is finding people who fit the culture. But like, they're already Griff's Furniture Emporium people before they get a hat or a shirt or they start working here. And we're trying to find those people rather than find some people who are rigid, maybe not super friendly, who don't necessarily fit all of the components that we have. I'm not trying to put a square peg through a round hole. I'm trying to find circles out there so they could just plug in immediately. I think we keep a loose culture here. Again, I think people generally want to get along well with each other and have fun. So it's a bit laid back, and I want people to not feel pressured when they come in here. The last thing that I want is for somebody to say, like, what could we do to get you into one of our couches today, and have like a higher pressure situation, because nobody likes that. Nobody's going to tell their friends about this place. It's just like a typical sales transaction. I would rather, what kind of a sectional you're looking for? You're looking for a particular color, a style? Is there a fabric I can help you find? And I think finding people who fit that bill is important. And a lot of times it's very apparent. Like, we sit down, we have interviews, Charles, and like, I'll talk to people and get to know them. But since I've been doing this for so long, I could pretty much figure out within the first 5 minutes of whether it's going to be a good fit. And, if it's a bad fit, usually I'll go through the full interview process just out of politeness. But I'll know within the first 5 minutes if this there's like a certain air or a certain magnetism that people have. And that's what you're looking for. Because if they're enthusiastic about things, just having a conversation, like, I know it's going to translate into furniture and just being able to have a conversation with a customer.
Honestly, it sounds like you have cracked the code. I've done quite a bit of hiring over the past 5 companies that I've run. It's the hardest thing in business. I've made so many mistakes over the years, hiring the wrong people. I think this is, for me, the hardest part of running a business.
It's super tough. I think the biggest component is patience. It's like a good fisherman is somebody who fishes a lot. You just got to go out there and wait, because sometimes it's going to be better than others. And, recently I had to let go of somebody, and like, this is a person who really fit the bill well. Like, he's a very hard worker, very diligent. He's growing his family, and this was a hard thing to do. And it's kind of like a suspension at the moment. A bunch of things happened. I don't want to get too far into it. Things that didn't go exactly how I would have liked it. But the most recent event is that he bought a sectional. He was out there with another one of our guys. And as they were loading it in the truck, they had 3 of them. And he jumped over on the weak side of a sectional, and it cracked in like 4 or 5 spots, which is no big deal. Like I talked about earlier, sometimes things are going to happen. You're going to have problems. It's going to break. Because unfortunately, he didn't tell the truth with exactly how everything went. He said that he wanted to buy the couch from us. He asked if he could just buy it at cost. And I said, yeah, no problem. As the day progressed later on, after they brought that couch to his home, he's like, I just want to be up front. Actually, it broke it. I didn't want you to think that I'm an idiot, because he had like 4 or he had like 3 infractions where things came up where he didn't notify a customer that a delivery was going to be late because of a pickup, a couple of other things. But they just started to accumulate. And I think it's hard to not take things personally, especially when you work with some people for so long. But one of the things that I can't get over is being dishonest. And like, if I can't trust somebody, my head instantly goes back to Otto, my general manager. I couldn't trust the guy. And it's tough for me to do business. This is a very simple business. We're running a lemonade stand. It's very easy to make back money or do repairs and stuff like that, or you could bounce back very quickly. But what I can't bounce back from is, a lack of integrity or lack of honesty. And it's unfortunate. We'll see how it goes. His heart was in the right spot. I try to look at what his intent was, and he didn't want me to be financially responsible for it. So, I mean, it's not the worst thing, I'm saying. Like, he tried to cover his tracks, but it would have been a heck of a lot better if he would have just sort of told me the truth. It's the lying part, and I'm still getting over it. It's the scar is still real new, so still sort of hurts right now. I don't know if you can feel that through the screen, but
it's tough. I've been in very similar situations. For me, I get invested in everyone that comes to work for me. I feel a responsibility to them. And that's cost me a lot of money over time. Like where I should have just pulled the plug. They say hire slow, fire fast. Like I just, kept giving people chances and trying to get them to fall in line. But yeah, so it's tough. Like I can relate to that connection that you feel responsible for them, right? And this guy, his situation, he's building family, you want him to do well, probably has a good heart. Sounds like a good person.
Yeah, I just need some time apart. Yeah, just need a little bit of time apart. I think, maybe in a week I'll be over it. But right now it's just a little tough.
At the same time, there's like some element of
Yeah.
sloppiness that can affect your business. And, I love how simple you make things, Griff. I'm running a lemonade
As simple as that.
Some people are trying to overcomplicate it. I'm that kind of person, by the way. Like you throw me into a bit. I don't know if I would necessarily fit into the furniture emporium, because I would come in, I would start like, I want to move this over here. I want to touch things like.
Yeah, Charles, you're too much of a bean counter, man. I think you drive me. No, that's an amazing thing. I need that though, because that's like a strength that'll counteract, like two different core strengths, or core competencies. But yeah, no, it's all about balance. I think that's great because you could be wildly successful doing it the way you operate. And you could be wildly successful other way. That's what I love about business. You have so many different modes of operating. I think you would hate me because I'm so like fly by the seat of my pants. I know you do a lot of big numbers, guy. Hey, I just buy it for a dime, sell it for $1. I couldn't be happier.
I think you need the balance. Right. And I've actually suffered from going too much in the direction of like exploration. Like sometimes you find something that works, you just got to keep doing it over and over and over again. Be disciplined, be consistent. But I kind of have this like shiny object syndrome where I'm like, oh, we could do that. We could do this. We can do that. And especially when you're the leader, I've realized that it takes time to steer the boat. You want to go left, like you got to prepare for that. And if you're constantly shifting directions, people get lost. And that can cause issues. So like having a clear focus. And so having a partner that can help you with having that clear focus, but another person that is sort of scouting ahead, trying to discover new things.
And it takes trust. It really does. And for me, it's hard for me to do that. And I don't know if you deal with anything like this, but I'll have so many ideas or so many things that I want to get to, whether it's at the operational level, or at the strategic level with marketing, or just things that I need to get done in the warehouse, with paying taxes, with getting the word out, with hiring. I mean, there's so many things. And then you just get hit with a distraction. You get hit with a customer. You get hit with an employee problem that comes up. And for me, it's like I feel inundated with things to do. Sometimes that could be a great thing, and sometimes that could be a terrible thing. Some days I wake up, I feel real well equipped to handle all of the things, and I can line them up perfectly and knock them all out. Or other times I'll wake up and I'll have maybe 10 different things I'm trying to attack that day, and then before you know it, it's just like you get disrupted all throughout the day, and you do all of them half-assed, and it's kind of it's a point of frustration. But you just got to keep at it. You keep at it, keep getting a little bit better every day, keep making people happy. Every transaction that you have, you shoot for a 5-star review. And as long as you keep getting them, everything else will seem to buff out.
Yeah, I have like a never-ending to-do list. Like literally, and it works for me, I guess. But like, I have so many. At this moment, 30 items on my to-do list, and the most important stuff bubbles to the top, and it gets done when it needs to get done. And then the stuff that is just not as important, at some point gets deleted from that list. Like I just never get to it. And so the priority list sort of prioritizes itself. But yeah, there's a never ending amount of things that we could be doing to improve our business, but it trades off with the things that are the most important. And I think super important to not lose focus of what actually propels the business forward. Who are your customers? Who do you need to take care of?
Yeah, agreed.
Now, it seems like when we started this conversation, I was focused more on like, what is the commission structure? How are these people getting paid out? But it seems like an equally, if not more important component of how the whole operation is running is this idea of culture, finding the right people. You can't just give the wrong people a financial incentive and expect them to fall in line and do what's necessary for the business to succeed. You have to be selective about the people that you bring into the structure in the first place. And so I think one of the more important lessons to come out of this podcast is not just about the financial incentive, but it's selecting the right people. And every person that you bring into a small business is going to alter the DNA and the culture of the business in some way, right? But if you had to prescribe top down what you think the culture of the business is, how would you describe it? Now, one thing that you said earlier is grit. You want people who have grit. What other words would you use to describe the culture at Griffin?
So each leader is going to be different, but for me, I'm looking for somebody that You're going to want to have them with the physical capabilities of being able to move furniture, being able to speak to a customer smartly, intelligently about what we offer, how we can deliver these goods to them and say it in a way that's going to make them happy, right? You need those. That's the meat and the potatoes. What I really want is, I worked hard on building this business. I want to work with people that I like. I don't want to work with people that are going to make my stomach turn or like, oh, I got to deal with this guy. It's going to be different. Like my idea of what that is going to be different than your idea of somebody is. So like for me, in an ideal world, who would I want to be stuck sitting next to if I'm on a 6-hour plane ride? It's somebody who I could become friends with real quick. And I'd rather work with people that I'm friendly with and have stuff in common, that I could discuss football or, a House of Dragons, stuff that we have shared interest, because we're going to be spending a pretty good amount of time, whether it's through text message or whether it's in person at the warehouse or on delivery. So I want somebody that we kind of mesh together with. It's going to take a little bit of time to, kind of sort of hang out with them. Honestly, I think it's maybe a superpower of mine, but I sort of get that idea with the people I meet them truthfully within the first 5 minutes. And I don't know if it's just facial expressions or just the cut of the jig. Just I see them and I could pretty much understand, all right, I could get along with this person. I can do some pickups and deliveries with this guy and be happy. Now, can this guy back up and pull a trailer? I don't know. But you know what? That's definitely something that's trainable. But their personality, they're going to be stuck with their personality. It's going to be like, I'm not trying to change anybody's personality and have it fit our mold or make it in a way where I can get along with them. But I feel like if there's somebody that I like, they don't use profanity every other word. They're not abrasive to customers. They seem genuinely like they have a friendliness to their face. Maybe I don't always have that friendliness to my face, but I can make it come out whenever a customer is here. That's what I'm looking for. And I don't want to prescribe a certain thing for anybody else's culture, because you want to build your company the way you want to build it. I just recommend, like, if you just try to think about who do you want with you if you're on a 6-hour plane ride. You don't want people that are going to be complaining nonstop. You don't want somebody that's going to be whining or, argumentative, stuff like that. You want people who are outwardly agreeable, flexible, friendly, things that you have common interests with, that you can have an engaging conversation with, things that interest you, because your customers are going to be just like us. And I want them to be able to have, I call it like a 5-minute friendship. I want our guys, and I tell them this all the time, when you go to their house, just become their best friend for 5 minutes. It's an easy thing to do. Find something, talk, whether it's the weather, their dog, anything that you could kind of have a conversation about with it. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to have a deep intellectual conversation about astrophysics or anything like that, but just, talk to them about something, gain rapport, have them like you in one way or another. And then that's really what gets people writing good reviews. If you just go in there like a robot, deliver the sectional or the couch set and say, thank you, have a great day, and then you walk out of there, nobody likes that. People want to have like a friendly interaction, something that makes their day a little bit more special. So I feel like that's wildly important and sometimes undervalued. And it seems like a basic thing, but for me, those are the critical things that we kind of look at when building the team.
I was getting dinner with a friend yesterday, and dinner was okay. I mean, the server seemed new. Like, he brought us our food, didn't give us utensils. We were sitting there with our food in front of us, 5 minutes, no utensils. He asked me, like, do you want water? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, do you want it with ice or without ice? I'm like, I want it without ice. And then he brings me a glass with ice in it. But these are little things, and I was taking it in stride, but we got into the topic of like, do you ever leave, like, she asked me, are you like a Yelper? Do you like leave reviews on Yelp?
Your waitress asked you that?
No. The person I was getting dinner with. I'm not like the kind of person to like go in and methodically review businesses and take pictures of all my food and be like a food critic kind of thing. But I notice things, especially as a business owner, I have a very high standard for how I interact with and treat my customers. And so I realized, like, I get very frustrated when businesses and employees don't provide a good customer experience, because I know what it's like to run a business and how important it is to put that emphasis on treating your customers correctly. And we have people that they're not even our customers. They like on a free trial of our software or something like that. And then they write in like really negative things. And if I can take that interaction and make it positive for them, that's a win in my book. So I just try to let it like glaze off my shoulders. But at the same time, I think for businesses that I frequent, I'm either your best friend, I'm somewhere in the middle where provided service is okay, or I'm like your worst enemy. If I get like really bad treatment or service from a business, like it really rubs me the wrong way. I'm curious, do you feel like that sort of pulling on you as well, running a business and interacting with other businesses?
With what, like rival furniture flippers? Or?
No. Just like, because you hold yourself and your employees to such a high standard for providing a good experience. Like, How do you feel if you go to a business and you get like a bad?
Yeah, I'm hyper aware of it now. I get it, especially at restaurants. I mean, because that's where you just see it firsthand. I'm more sensitive to it. And about like telephone salespeople, True Green be calling me all the time, trying to sell me, their product. And those guys are actually pretty good. Some of them are a little bit more pushy than others. And then I could sense right away, even if everybody's the main purpose is close the deal, let's make some money. What I find uniquely different is when the sales rep kind of really explores the need of the customer, like what's important to them, rather than selling them the most expensive product that we have to offer. Just find out what they need. How much room are they working with in their home? What did they measure their space? Are you looking for a certain color or fabric? And still like do explorative questions to the customer so that you could put yourself in their perspective. So then you could basically push them in or guide them in the right direction to something that would work best for. I think I have a great awareness for that. Basically, if their main objective is to make the customer comfortable, that's my number one thing. I want to make sure that all of our customers are comfortable, not just with our couches, but with the way the sales interaction goes. And I don't want them to feeling like they're being pushed into something that they can't afford, or if they're being pushed into like an urgent delivery, like if they're not moving into their house for 2 weeks, we can hold on to it for them. And I want them to know and understand that. And that's something that we offer. So it's all about having good quality conversations, communicating what we can offer, and then having two sides of the communication, not just saying what we can do, but listening to what the customer needs and how we would be able to fulfill those needs.
There's a fine line there, right? Because you want to have that service mentality. You want to make sure the customer is having superior experience, but you also need them to act in some way. Like make a decision. Like, this is a quality product, this is quality service. Like, some level you got to shit or get off the pot, right? And so knowing how to straddle that line, super important. Griff, we're almost at our hour here. Been a fascinating conversation. We dug much deeper into the topic of building out a sales force for your furniture flipping business than I could have even imagined. You had a final tip for anyone who's looking to incorporate this strategy into their couch flipping business?
For scaling up and getting employees, the most important thing is, again, you don't want to depend on your employees. You don't want to leverage their assets. Just have your brand developed, have your resources operational, have your truck, have your trailer ready for your employees to use. Trust them. You have to have the unparalleled levels of trust. You have to give them the keys to the truck and be all right with it. You have to give them the keys to the warehouse and be all right with it. And if things go south, you cut ties with them. But I would say the first important thing to do is establish your infrastructure, establish your resources, have the truck that you're ready, you're comfortable with them using, have the trailer that you train them to operate well, have the warehouse, don't rely on them for their garage or their space and stuff like that, and hire people that you like doing business with, that you already have a good friendly working relationship with, that you can trust. Ultimately, don't rely on them for too much. You just want them to have an interdependent relationship, have their effort, their time, and allow them to use your brand and be all right with it. If they don't do it 100% the way that you like it, as long as it's within your tolerance level, nobody's going to, like I said, I'll say this many times, nobody's going to treat your baby the way that you treat your baby. But if it's within a certain tolerance level that you understand to be allowable, just give them the freedom to operate. And that's the only way you're going to grow.
And so if they are looking to start scaling up a sales force, et cetera, they should definitely wait until they have some infrastructure in place, a little bit of a moat around them, get their sales, marketing, branding going, maybe have a warehouse, have a truck, assets that could be utilized by the...
Yeah, you have to have that moat. If your moat is just the idea of buying and reselling couches, you're going to have more competition, because as soon as they understand this idea, you're not taking credit cards, you're not taking, you don't have finance options, you don't have a sprawling warehouse, you don't have a truck, a trailer that your employees can use. They're going to run off and become your competition in no time. Even as friendly as you are and as much as you might trust them, once they realize how much money they can make with this idea, they're going to be off and doing their own thing in no time. It's unfortunate, but it's happened to me more times than I care to remember.
Yeah, money can change people.
It does. Changes a lot, because at the end of the day, they're looking to improve their life in the best way possible.
Well, Griff, thank you so much for the time. It's been another great conversation with you. I look forward to many more in the future.
It's a privilege. Charles, all right, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
Chat soon. Thanks.